and welcome to RiverFest 2020. I've got Dave Harrell with me here and we're at Stoke Bardolph on the River Trent. Dave, what do we reckon is going to go down today then?
Well, I think we've got a great final venue and a great final in prospect, don't you? I mean, there's been great weights all the way through the summer on this particular venue. Lots of different fish caught, roach, dace, perch, chub, barbel, bream, you name it, virtually every, bleak as well, there's a few bleak, but it's a really great match in prospect, great weekend in prospect, you know, it's we've got so many good anglers fishing again. Unreal,
isn't it? That lineup is, I think,
absolutely,
you'd probably argue the most star-studded lineup we've ever had. I think I listed last night 12 internationals.
Absolutely.
And God knows how much prize money they've had between them, and then to back that up, we've got, you know, the who's who of river fishing as well. We've got Wayne, you know, we've got Spud's back again, isn't he? Matt Hall,
and all the best anglers aren't even through.
Like, yeah, we both had a go, didn't we, this
absolutely.
year? Absolutely. But what do you really see as the tactics that kind of come to the fore this weekend then? What if you had to pin your hat on one tactic that was going to see the majority of the winner weights, what would it be?
I think the way it's been pegged, first of all, I mean, Wayne SWINSCOE's pegged this match out. Everyone's got masses of room, and I think on a river like this that's important because it gives you options. You know, you can fish wagglers, you can fish stick floats, you can fish pole. Even just looking at the stuff the anglers are setting up, I mean pole will play a huge part on this. Some of the anglers will be doing it with loose feeds, some will be doing it with ground baits. And then you've got a secondary option of running line. You know, anglers are setting up bollo rigs, they're setting up stick float rigs, and of course waggler as well. You know, and you got the room to do it. That's the thing, regardless of wind. The thing about this venue is it's quite exposed. The wind affects it badly, but you've got a big bendy river.
Right? It up today already, isn't it?
Yeah, it's windy here, coming upstream hard, and then when you go to the other end, I'd looked down there this morning, it's flat calm.
Yeah, that's it. I had a wander down there and I saw Lee setting up, and as you were saying, I think he had 10 top fives, 4 float rods and 3 feeder rods. You've really got to cover your options, haven't you?
Absolutely. And then you've got the other option of fishing for big fish, of course. You know, I mean, anglers will. There'll be certain anglers here fishing for bream today, no doubt. And I can see a couple of big bream weights coming out as well. So,
I think one other thing we've got to cover as well is the work we've done with Ashfield in the run up to it.
Absolutely
and
brilliant.
The club's been fantastic, haven't they, in terms of, you know, helping out with stewards, suggesting the sections and organising the fields and the farmers and the cows and all those little things that...
it's all the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see, but I can't speak highly enough of Ashfield anglers at the angling club. You know, they're all helping on the bank today, and they've got a fantastic stretch of river. I mean, all the anglers can either park behind the pegs or drop the gear off and then park nearby. You know, it's been brilliant, the whole thing. I mean, we had a couple of qualifiers that went well, and they just want to develop it with us. So, I mean, I think we've got a true Wembley of fishing here. You know?
Yeah, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? It's easy access, parking behind a lot of the pegs. It's bang on. I think the other key people we need to thank as well is the sponsors this year again.
Yes.
Severn Trent support this competition to the hill, don't they?
Absolutely.
Fantastic that we have got it on some of their water as well now.
Yes.
And the other one being Baitek, Haley and Baitek, long-standing, you know, relationship with them, supporting the competition, and we're looking to move it forward again, aren't we?
Absolutely. We're always looking to develop this competition, and you know, this year was quite testing, wasn't it? We lost a few of the matches early on, but we managed to replace them with other venues. It's been a very different year. You know, we've had to do the draw online, which you and I have done. You know, and different responses always from people, but it was the safest way to do it, and I'm really chuffed that we've managed to get the match to go ahead. You know? Yeah,
agreed, and I think that online draw actually had its own charm as well, didn't it, on the Friday night, with lots of people logging on to watch it and chatting with their mates, and we also discussed that gave them the opportunity to get equipment ready as well, didn't it? It got people, you know, well, I'm going to be on, you know, the rack section, going to need more probably pole set up there and bits and pieces like that, so definitely has its pros and cons, doesn't it?
Definitely.
But what I think it's going to lead to is, you know, a really open final. I think, you know, it can almost be won from anywhere, and even if you're, you know, let's say £15 behind today, you can make it all up tomorrow, can't you?
And of course the nice thing is we've got A zone here, 36 anglers, and everything swaps over tomorrow. You know, those on B come to A, those on A go to B. So, you know, all to play for. It's forecast a lot of rain today, and I can see the river rising by day 2.
Yeah.
You know, so that could change everything again. I mean, the approaches people use today on certain pegs could be completely different tomorrow. And that's the beauty of river fishing, isn't it?
That's it. Should we go have a look how they're getting on then?
Come on, let's have a look.
So it's day 1 of RiverFest and I've drawn B55. A nice looking peg, and I can't complain because the wind is quite nice here. I actually qualified from this event from the Untitled Trent, a venue I've never actually fished before, and I caught £7 a perch to win the zone. And I quite enjoyed it, to be honest, and it's made me fish a few more rivers recently. And I'm here today, and I think I'm going to have a great day, to be honest, catching a few dace, a few roach, maybe a big perch. Let's see what happens.
Hello, Sean ASHBY here. Obviously on the RiverFest Final on the Trent, down at Burton Joyce. I've drawn 53, which is about 3 pegs up from the bottom of the Nelson field. Not really sure what it's going to be like. I think there's some big fish here. There's some chub, definitely some dace and roach, probably some perch. I think it'd be a great, it'd be a good area. I think, not, you know, there's worse areas to draw. I think it'd be a great final. I think it's, obviously the lineup is as good as it's ever been, I think. Hopefully there'll be a load of fish caught, some big fish, some small fish. It'll be hopefully a tight match.
Right, qualified on Evesham last week actually. Sort of drew 52, which is a noted chub peg, and knew I had a good chance there. And it's in with the Isborne pegs, but the Isborne didn't fish, so I ended up winning the match for £20. I've only ever fished this venue twice. One was in a national, I don't know, 4 years ago. I was on the other bank somewhere, and I had about 9.5 kilo, which was 3rd in the zone on the day. And then the other time was a qualifier up in the ferry field, and I lost that to Matt Godfrey, so I come 2nd there. So from what I've seen of it, I mean, you know, it's a good venue. I wish it was a bit closer, I'll be honest, you know what I mean? Because it's a bit different from the Y, because you've got good sort of match fishing summer sport here, you know, and but it's all good. Trying to find out some information on my peg here. I've had Mark Godfrey give me a bit of indication. There's an odd chance of some chub. I think there's some barbel here. My Dorking mate there, old Ginger, Simon Willsmore, he may be on the barbel peg, but it looks barbely to me because the flow is right and close. And it's quite a hard bottom, you know, so my other mate, Adrian Whittle, has had no sleep last night because he's drawn the M peg in a match. And if anyone I wish to catch some fish, I hope it'll be him, because he'll be murdered tonight. But other than that, all good. I hope everyone the best.
Never qualified for RiverFest before this year, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. Normally my summers are really busy, but this year with everything that's happened, really enjoyed fishing qualifiers. I actually qualified here at Burton Joyce in middle of summer, and what a venue it's been. It's just alive with fish, top to bottom in the warmer months. Shame it's got a bit colder, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be exciting. There's probably going to be some big fish, and if I catch or not, I'm excited to see what actually happens.
Well, I qualified last Sunday, last gasp at Burton on Trent. Drew a pretty poor section, did all right, had £6 odd on the waggler, so pretty conventional really. Bit of a surprise that I got through, but the section was poor, to be fair. I think £4 was second, so I was really chuffed with that. Coming into today, I've been on the river a little bit. I've fished a couple of SWINSCOE Opens. I've done one feeder fest on here, RiverFest, sorry. So yeah, it's a decent area. I think there's been a lot of dace in the past, but it seems the last few weeks they've started to get a little bit more difficult to catch. I don't know if they've migrated off the length or nobody's really sure. They're just not feeding as well as they have been. But I'm optimistic. There's plenty of perch along this area, and the pole might be good for roach. It's a nice depth, so I'm looking forward to it. To be fair, I think probably, you know, if I can get £10, I'll be more than happy.
Well, I qualified, I think, at Ratcliffe, throwing a feeder in and caught some bream, so I'm hoping for exactly the same today. It's an area noted for bream. Hopefully they have a chew today. Who knows? Not seen any signs of any, but my good friend Eric Ball has just given me some inspired confidence. It's good access, it's been good fishing. possibly a couple of weeks too late in the year, but you've got to get the qualifiers in, so that's a difficult one. Don't know any rivers that are particularly good in October, but certainly it's as good as anywhere.
So what a fantastic day we've had on the first day of RiverFest 2020 here. And you might even argue, Dave, the best weights we've ever seen in the first day of RiverFest. Certainly maybe one of the best average weights. Certainly the best match, without a doubt. It's just like we thought, isn't it? You know, we expected a lot of different methods to play a part. And they did, you know. Bream did win. Only one good weight of Bream. Lots of 20s. I mean, there were 29 double figure weights. Unreal, isn't it? I mean, realistically, how many rivers around the country could you go and get 29 double figure weights? It really came up with the goods. And so many different fish up in A section. We saw chub caught, we saw bream, we saw roach. As we were on about big perch, you know, lots of big perch caught. Great, really good. Lots of people fishing that choppy short on a flat float or a little lead, weren't they? We saw, I think we saw one into the £3 mark sort of yesterday, didn't we? Just the one barbel, do you think they're going to start playing a part? Everything's changed, hasn't it? You know, yesterday at the end of the match, the river level was 1.2. That's up at Collick. There's a gauge reading that I always use these EA things. We spoke about that a lot of times in the past. It was 1.2 at the end. Currently, it's about 1.6 and it's forecast to reach about 2 metres by the end. So I think we're going to see more anglers fishing for big fish today. That's for sure. It wouldn't surprise me to see more bream weights caught, and it wouldn't surprise me if barbel have a go. That's it, that colour's right up, isn't it? I mean, I should imagine there'll be more guys on that ground bait feeder looking for a bream, maybe potentially a few even going towards pellets. I know it's not necessarily the tactic anymore on here, but the thing is, if you go, it's a gamble, isn't it? Today, you've just got to take your chances. If you're only a £7 or £8 now, you may as well gamble the lot, right? Because if all of a sudden it comes right, you can still win £14,000. Well, that's it. You only need to be sat on, you know, Paul Cannon's peg from yesterday, and you catch £40, and you're right there in with the shout, aren't you? Yeah. And he's on a good peg today again. He's actually where he's 4 from the bottom of the road stretch, and that's where he had 30-odd pound last year on a qualifier on a high river. Now, I'm quite sure Paul's going to fish the same again. He's probably going to go down the route of bream and perch. I can't see him doing much else because I think that's the right way probably to fish that area. That's it. I had a walk past him yesterday on the live streams, and I think he had 2 top 5 set up, 2 feeder rods, I think maybe a bolo, 5. I mean, lovely simple match. Sometimes I wish I could fish such a simple match. Absolutely. It's that foresight sometimes, isn't it? Know the peg you're on and attack it. But there's going to be loads of people thinking so carefully about getting in that top 10 today, isn't there? Yeah. It's going to be another good match, this isn't it? Lots of people in those teens, aren't they? And you know, they get 20, 25 pound of silverfish today, and they're there for a shout. And that top 10, I'm sure, will be proper competitive today. Absolutely, I agree.
First peg in the ferry field, quite happy with that. Good area noted for bream, so that was a big part of the plan. Hopefully there would feed, so that 1 feeder rig, 1 pole rig, flat float, 3 gram flat float, hopefully for some perch. So I had about £3 on the flat float and caught my first bream at 1:30. Caught most of my fish between 1:30 and 3 o'clock, and I had 1 in the last 10 minutes, which was very kindly supplied by Mr. Scully. I had 8 bream, all on maggots, up to possibly the biggest was probably approaching £9, I would have thought. No other bites, fairly simple day. Not a great deal other to say other than that. Well, today, it's an area that's got outside chance of some bream, so probably about 2 foot of extra water in, so it'll be a bream approach and a flat float for whatever else turns up on that, hopefully. Don't think I've got many other options other than that. So a fairly simple match, really, hopefully.
Yesterday I had a fantastic day's fishing, really. The conditions were horrible to fish in, wet and windy, but the fish were feeding, and I had a fantastic day's fishing. You know, even now, after fishing the river for 40 odd years, you know, 20 odd pound of roach was brilliant, and the river did fish well. You know, it was a nice overcast day, normal level, and just fish started on feeder. I had probably £3 a decent roach on feeder, and when I started to catch a few roach on feeder, I thought, well, maybe I'll have a quick look on pole. And after an hour I came on the pole and had a quick look for perch on worms, never caught any. Went out sort of 11.5 metres, 7 foot deep, gram float, and it was perfect, and caught steady on and off in bursts. Had a few pike on, probably 6 or 8 pike on, but they didn't do too much damage, to be honest. They'd just take a fish and then they'd leave me alone. And yeah, I just caught a nice stamp roach, a lot of dace in my peg, and you know, you had to feed a lot of bait. Fed like 4 pints of casters, 2 pints of hemp, basically just on pole line. And if you didn't feed it, you just got daced out, but eventually the roach would come and it was all off the bottom. You know, I missed a few bites, bumped a few fish, but generally I had a lovely day's fishing. Today, the different river. There's probably 15-inch come on it overnight. It hasn't coloured up as much as I thought it would, but the day's colder and the water feels a bit colder from yesterday. So I think it's going to be a struggle for a lot of people to catch good weights of silverfish. Maybe the areas will differ, like where I was up near the outfall, that could be dodgy today. But lower down the river, sort of at the bottom of the road, which was hard yesterday, that foot of water will make it flow, and I think they will catch some roach there. But they've all got a possibility of catching some bream as well. And no doubt today, with it being the second day, people will tend to like want a fish to win the match, so there might be some bream showing other areas, odd barbel, odd chub, you never know. My peg today, 16 pound a dace off it yesterday. It's boiling and rattling through. It's a little bit, it's 9 or 10 foot deep today, so I'm not really want to be fishing in that depth of water, but I think we'll catch some fish. I'm going to take it steady. I'm not going to throw too much ground bait in to start with. I'm going to have a spell on the feeder and just gently introduce some maggots and ground bait and casters, bit of loose feed, and just after sort of half an hour, depending on how things are going, I'm going to make a few decisions. Also, there's a chance of a big fish anyway, so maybe if it's a bad day, I'll have to look at that in the end.
Well, we're halfway through day 2 now, and I've been joined by Jamie Cook, the CEO of Angling Trust. Jamie, there was a time when we did wonder when we're going to have to get this going or not, didn't we, this competition?
Oh, very much so, Dave, yeah, and it's down to the hard work of the team at the Angling Trust and all the volunteers who have put this on that we're able to be here in such a fantastic competition. And I mean, it's a real credit being on the bank here to the club and to the volunteers and the organisers like yourself who have worked so hard to get us here. But as you say, going back a few months, if we'd have been looking at it in March, April, May time, there was certainly no certainty we'd be able to get back. And I think the fact that angling's the first sport, that not just first to come back in terms of out of lockdown, but we were the very first sport to recommence competitive angling. And that's testament to the anglers as well, the fact that they took it so serious, they followed the guidance we put in place, and we put an awful lot of work in. So I'm absolutely delighted we can be here today and see such a quality match.
I must admit, when the pandemic really started to kick in, I did wonder whether we'd end up selling enough tickets this year. I mean, we had 1,440 tickets to sell. Incredibly, I mean, they all went faster than ever, and whether that was just testament down to the venue we're using here as a final venue, I'm not quite sure, but
I think it's a combination of factors, Dave. Yeah. I think when you look at it, that you've got the fact that there's clearly a resurgence in natural venue river fishing as well. I mean, you and I both grew up fishing natural rivers, absolutely love my river fishing, not to the standard of these guys, but I think there's a resurgence and people want to engage in that way and fish in that way. So I think the opportunity in the match is brilliant. And I also think there's that aspect around, because we were able to bring the sport back at the point we were, because there was latent demand with people wanting to get out on the bank and fish competitively, and because we were maybe that step ahead, and all that work that you and the volunteers and James and the team from our side have put into ensuring that we had COVID compliant guidelines, that we could follow them, and that anglers could actually confidently come and fish and think that we're part of the solution here, not part of the problem. We're not putting ourselves at risk. The fact that we've been able to maintain that, I think, gave people that confidence to say, yeah, I'll buy a ticket, I'll come and get involved. And it's one thing after the other, isn't it? When you buy one, you probably buy 2 or 3 or 4, and as you know, it's a bug qualifying to be here. Yeah. I can absolutely see why people have worked so hard to get here today.
Absolutely. And everybody wants it, everybody wants to be a part of it. You know, even now I've had people on the bank this weekend asking me like, when do tickets go on sale for next year, you know.
I met a guy up on the top field, and he was there with his daughter, which was brilliant to see. And he said, "Oh, I fish locally. I'm actually a member of the club. I'd love to try and qualify for this competition. I just don't have the confidence. Some of these guys are big names, and I don't know if my head would cope with it fishing against them." And I just said to him, absolutely come and give it a go, because as you know, on any given Saturday or Sunday on any peg, the right person's the right combination.
I'm starting to feel like that guy after 2 years. I'm spending too much time this side of the river than that side, I think. But,
no, but I mean, thanks go to you and the organisers and the volunteer teams that have put this together. I mean, alongside James and the team from the Angling Trust competitions, the level of work that's gone into it and the dedication and actually the professionalism, because we're a sport that really relies on volunteers and thrives on the input they put in for people who love their sport. And seeing it come together in a final like this, and I was watching the lives yesterday, my wife was saying, "Why are you on your phone all day?" I'm like, "Well, I'm watching James on live, I want to see what's going on." And I think we're laying a foundation here for a fantastic competition. I look forward to building it moving forward.
Yeah. And I think we will. I think with Ashfield Angling Club, they want to make it happen with us as well, and obviously they control the whole water, so onwards and upwards, I think. Absolutely.
Well, again, just thanks to you, thanks to the guys, and I'm delighted to be here and seeing such a wonderful match. I'm going to go and wander over and learn how to catch dace on the feeder, because that's a...
So we're going to have a look at some...
Let's go and watch him.
And so the 8th RiverFest Final comes to an end, and I've been joined by this year's winner, Paul Cannon, who, dare I say, has probably set up the least amount of tackle of anybody on the riverbank this weekend.
By a long way.
You know, yesterday I was walking along that section, just got up to you as you're playing a bream, on one of my old rods as well.
Yes.
But it just goes to prove, doesn't it, that this weekend was about, we did talk about it all the way through, talking about it could be big fish, it could be small fish. We mentioned bream. You had a great day yesterday. Just talk us through the match a little bit. I mean, you said to me that the draw put you into that situation, you had to fish like that.
Yeah.
But how did you approach it?
Well, yesterday I drew a peg that suited me down to the ground. I know the river quite well, having fished it for probably thick end of 40 years. So I knew it was an area that can produce bream, and it was just a case of whether they feed on the day. It's not an area that's sort of well noted for roach and dace, so it sort of takes that out your day really. So you've got a few perch on a flat float, and basically you're hoping the bream feed, which fortunately they did.
What an exciting day.
Yeah, and the bream are so big in the river now that you don't need many bites. Yeah. You just got to make the most of what comes along.
The one fish you had, what was that? £8 probably?
Oh, it was more than that. It was more than that, yeah. I mean, when I lifted the landing net out, I would have said it was 9-ish.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're big fish.
So you went into today with a good lead.
Yeah.
Were you happy with today's draw?
There could have been worse places to be, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably an area where I qualified for the RiverFest last year, from probably a similar area on a similar river, albeit
it was higher, wasn't it, last year?
Albeit it was earlier in the year, so it was a lot warmer. So you know, it's not a lot of it yesterday, and there was a top angler on it yesterday, so I knew there weren't many roach and dace to be caught. So it basically just get your head down and.
One thing that stood out for me yesterday, a lot of people think that when they're fishing for big bream they should always have like big worms on or a bunch of worms. You did it differently, didn't you?
I've not had a bite I've not had a bite from a bream on it. This over 10 hours fishing on anything other than a maggot, which is it's amazed me. You know, I mean, I would have said casters is probably one of the main baits
was that
on it.
Bunches of maggots? Or?
3 maggots on a, by and large, a 12.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
And yesterday I fished all 15 power line. Today I've fished all 17. I've actually been broke by one.
Wow.
Yeah, they're such powerful fish.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
I remember seeing one last year, £10.
Yeah.
But, mate, you've done absolutely brilliant. 14 grand.
Dave, it's been great. It's not the money. I finally won something I consider worth winning, and it's.
You're a worthy
struggling
champion.
for words.
We can't shake hands, but we can do this.
Thank you.
Well done, pal.
Thank you very much.